Are you someone like me who wanted so much to believe in the law of attraction, but actually nothing changed in your life, certainly nothing for the better, and you got really frustrated? You're not alone. We're not alone. Millions fall for the oldest trick in the book, and that is to provide feel-good ideology and then call it a law or a secret or a habit. It gives a false validation. We all fall for it. As you probably know, all the tomes on the law of attraction are based on a book that was written in 1910 called The Science of Getting Rich. But there wasn't a lot of science around in 1910. I've read the book. There's none in the book. There's certainly no data-driven law like the laws of energy, which I follow. I got so frustrated with the law of attraction because although it made me feel better about the crappy life I was living at the time, I wanted a better life. I wanted tools and techniques that work, that are proven, that are based on scientific principles. They don't exist in the law of attraction, and so I decided to fix things once and for all. My name's Trevor Blake, and I'm a serial entrepreneur, and that makes me a fixer, because entrepreneurs are people who go and fix stuff or create stuff. What makes me slightly different is I'm also a physicist, so I'm a little bit obsessed with how and why things work and how and why things don't work. Some would describe me as a hedonist also, and that doesn't mean that I get to hang out in Roman orgies, unfortunately. It means I'm a seeker of truth over dubious marketing practices, and also a seeker of pleasure over pain. I want success with balance. And that's what Trevor G. Blake is all about. The law of attraction isn't a scientific law. There's no such thing. It's an idea, and in short, it says that if you use some positive thinking, you can sit back and wait for good things to show up in your life, and that sounds great. And without knowing why, the authors behind it are partly right or partly lucky, because we do attract to ourselves the things we think about. But here's the rub. If we think about things we don't want, we get more of what we don't want. This is quite a difficult concept. If we think about debt, we get more reasons in our life to have more debt. If we think about what we want, certainly things improve. But being constantly positive and thinking positively, I don't know about you, but I find it exhausting. I find it impossible. I'm as flawed as anybody is. So I use all the wrong words and all the wrong thoughts all the time. There's a better way. And it's following the laws of energy. Because the laws of energy are clear and irrefutable. Science doesn't need you to believe in it. So all that pressure of having to believe is taken away from you. The main law of energy I like to follow is the one that says energy, everything is energy, but energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only changed into other formats. That's powerful. So our thoughts are real things. They go out into the universe and they come back and give us what we just thought about. And that's why we get into these loops of behavior, these patterns of experiences. What we need to break through that is a degree of mentality control, and that's what I teach through my transformation experience. The transformation experience is the last course you ever need to buy. I put it together because I have so many friends who spend a small fortune going from one seminar to one webinar to another course to buying a book, to watching a movie. Costs them a fortune and nothing changes. They get a serotonin hit, makes them feel good for a few days. So long ago, I dumped the law of attraction and I replaced it with the transformation experience. In the transformation experience, we have basic scientific principles that we don't need to understand, but we do need to follow. So I have some really simple tools and techniques, and all you have to do is do them. It's a multi-step process. But the difference between law of attraction, there's a lot of differences between law of attraction and laws of energy, but one of them is you have work to do. Because when you set your mentality control a certain way, life will start throwing clues in your direction, and you have to respond to them. You can't just sit in a chair and wait for it to happen. You have to look for the clues. Use your intuition to speak to somebody in a line. Expect phone calls from someone you haven't heard from for a long, long time, but you have to respond to all of these things. It's a subtle but crucial difference between the quote-unquote law of attraction and the real law of energy. You won't end up just feeling better about the life you have. You will have a better life. As a serial entrepreneur, I've built 6 companies. I've exited 3, and that's not 6 from 20, that's 6 from 6, using the same formula, the same science of intentions. When I was a kid, I grew up poor. My mother was given 6 months to live. My father was unemployable, probably as a result of that smack in the face. He wasn't a bad man, he just gave up. I was 7. We lived at the mercy of welfare. My trajectory in life was pretty much mapped out to me, and when it came time to choose a career, the careers officer said, here's an application form for an apprentice manager at a chicken packing factory at the town down the road. And it hit me in the heart, because I saw myself as more than that. And I made the bold statement to this counsellor, and I said, I'm going to be an officer in the Royal Navy. And she laughed in my face. And 3 years later, I graduated as an officer in the Royal Navy. How did I do it? I did it with the transformation experience that I learned by reading hundreds of biographies from the people who'd been before me, pioneers in every aspect of life. I saw the same patterns of behavior. That became my first book, 3 Simple Steps, which I published or was published in 2012. Transformation Experience is based on that book. It's that book on steroids. I used the same formula to have an amazing life of adventure, traveling to 56 countries on a really high salary, living the luxury life. And then when I turned 40, I thought it was time to grow up a little bit. And I started my first company, Qual Medical. You can look it up online, QOLmedical.com. I started it with a few $100s. I sold it for 105.5 million a few years later. It's a great story, but here's the best part of the story. Before I even had a name for the company, I wrote out, using the science of intentions, an intention that said something like, I, Trevor G. Blake, am a brilliant founder and CEO who has successfully built an impactful company and sold it for more than $100 million. And there are secrets in the way that intention is put together. You won't find them in Law of Attraction, I can tell you that, because they're based on science. I call it the P's. There's 7 P's in total. I'll give you 3 of them that you can find if you play this again and go back to that intention. Key P's, how we use our thoughts and words. I didn't say I will, or I can, or I hope in that intention. I said I sold, past tense. Time is an illusion. You can find out about it in the Transformation Experience. You crush time, I sold. Another P is it's powerful. What do I mean by powerful? It's raising an energy to the highest level. So the idea, the image in my head of me being in a position to sell my company for more than $100 million is so powerful to me from where I started, that it sets me up this feeling of awe. What would that feel like? Oh, that feels awesome. And when we get to that, naturally we create a physical process called superfluidity. It's flow. I use the simpler words, so it's flow. And so awe creates flow, and you can sit back a little bit and then respond to life's clues, and it will happen for you. I never worked more than 5 hours a day. I never hired an employee, and I never have for any of my companies. Today, I probably work about 2 hours a day. I use a different way of playing with energy to achieve success with balance. I get emails every single day from people who've gone through the Transformation Experience. I have my favorites. I have a 13-year-old girl who was working in a sweatshop, and all she wanted to do was dance. And now she's just qualified for the Royal Ballet in London. I have a 93-year-old man who, when he was 86, started his first company. One had been putting off for 20 years, and is having the time of his life, and the years have fallen off and never been happier or more motivated, so he says. But the typical one is someone who, like 2 years ago, I was contacted by a woman and she says, I'm desperate, I need help. So I said, Transformation Experience. And so her situation was fairly typical. She was working in a corporate environment. She hated her job. It was a very male environment. They ignored her. She got passed over promotion. She got more and more stressed, more and more frustrated. She'd even had her moments of distraction with alcohol and taking pills, etc. She brought her stress home, and the relationship and the family relationship, not just her spouse, but the family relationship, was all but destroyed. It was a horrible situation. And they were up to their eyeballs in debt, as are most people. 6 months later, after going through the Transformation Experience, which takes typically an hour a day for 30 days, 6 months later, she sent me an email and it was all in capital letters. And she went, wow, OMG, I'm debt-free for the first time since I can remember. That's a really important part of the Transformation Experience, is using tools and techniques to get us debt-free, relieves us of all that pressure, frees us, we can fly. And then 6 months after that, she sent me another email, this time all lowercase, because now she had total mentality control. And she said, I left my job, I became an independent consultant, and I'm working on my first deal. It's $250 million, and I get the 7.5% finder's fee. Her life as she knew it is gone, it's completely changed. And that's why the Transformation Experience is the last course you ever need to purchase. If you know other people like you, like me, who are frustrated by the law of attraction and want something that actually works, that's based on proven science, that works for everybody, but you have to do the work, but it works for everybody. If you know people like that, please hit the subscribe button so you can get my other videos, because I talk a lot about this these days. I am intent on fixing what's wrong, or what I think is wrong with self-help and personal development. I'm on a bit of a crusade. So help me, hit the subscribe button and share this with anyone you know who's still stuck in quicksand and like you and like me, is totally frustrated by the fool's gold that gets sent their way under the auspices of laws, habits, secrets. Thank you.